Hi, everybody. This is Tom Phelan here again with another 8-minute parenting tip. Today we're doing sibling rivalry and whole family fun. One of our fondest hopes as parents, I think, is to have fun with the rest of the family or with the whole family together. So this is something we often dream about and dreamed about before we had kids. But one of our hardest to understand problems is sibling rivalry, something that can interfere with whole family fun in a big way and make our outings together much more difficult. So these two are going to square off today in my presentation. It's a life or death struggle. At least it certainly feels that way some of the time, doesn't it, when we go out with the kids? We want to have fun and we get that sibling rivalry interfering. Let's take a look at some of our thoughts about sibling rivalry and whole family fun. One of the things we think about as parents is this is repetitive, obnoxiously repetitive. You think, oh no, not again. He pushed me. I didn't touch you. My hands don't smell. That kind of thing goes on and on and on. We also feel that sibling rivalry is really, really stupid. It's like, what is it with these two that they keep doing this over and over and over again? Now, those thoughts aren't too unreasonable, but we have a lot of other thoughts about sibling rivalry that are unreasonable. And I want to give you a few of them right now. And keep in mind, these thoughts are all screwy. They're all incorrect. So when the kids fight, we think something is very wrong with our family. Incorrect, wrong. All families are this way. My child must be mentally ill, or these kids must be mentally ill. That's incorrect. All kids fight. You don't have to be mentally ill to fight with your brothers and sisters. I'm a bad parent. This is a significant one that bothers a lot of people. I messed something up. My kids wouldn't be fighting, or they wouldn't be fighting this often or with this intensity if I were doing things right. That's incorrect. Doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Other families are not like this. This is wrong. Other families simply don't post their kids fighting on Instagram stories. So it's not anything that's unusual. Sometimes we think, I hope this is just a stage the kids are going through. It's not a stage. Sibling rivalry is not a stage. So let's talk about some useful facts about sibling rivalry. Number one, sibling rivalry is evolutionary. I want you to impress upon you the normality and the depth and the historicity or whatever of this thing, this event. It's gone on for years and years and years. And even though it may sound funny, human beings, we think sometimes we're at the top of the food chain and all this, but we're an outgrowth of a lot of evolution that's happened. And sibling rivalry is buried in that evolutionary track. Let me give you some examples. Now, this is a little bit nasty maybe, or gross, but here's one. You may have never heard of a sand tiger shark, but if you see a shark at the zoo, it's likely to be a sand tiger shark. What you may not know about these sharks is something called siblicide, which is killing your siblings. The mother tiger shark has two stomachs, two wombs, and when eggs are fertilized, they are in both of those wombs. In each womb, once the eggs start hatching, come out baby tiger sharks, and what do? They eat each other till there's only one little shark left in each of her stomachs. They eat all their brothers and sisters, and they eat all the eggs. So that's called siblicide, and it's not only killing, but it's eating your brothers and sisters. So that's in the evolutionary track. Now you're thinking, well, we didn't evolve from sharks. Well, okay. Now there's another thing. There's a bird called the masked booby. It ranges from East Africa down to Australia. This bird, you'd think the parents would get the idea after a while, but the birds usually lay two eggs, and one hatches first, and the one that hatches first kills the other bird after it hatches from the second egg without any intervention from the parents. That's made some people suggest that we call this the nasty masked booby instead of just the masked booby. But you see, siblicide and really extreme forms of sibling rivalry are common in evolutionary history. What's the cause of sibling rivalry? It's competition for limited resources. These two kids here are going to compete for the attention of mom, dad, and the cat some of the time. And I think the other thing that is probably in the evolutionary history is competing for food. Sibling rivalry frequencies by age, you can look at it under 3. Kids are together and able to fight. They can fight 6 times per hour. Ages 3 to 7, 3 to 4 times per hour. Doesn't get any better. Ages 10 to 15. Interestingly enough, the kids do not engage in that same kind of fighting with cousins or friends. And they tend to lower the frequency and the severity when they're with strangers as the children get older. Now let's look at family fun. What about family fun? Family fun in a lot of families is what I call the big should. It's something we feel we should do. It's the default. We're going to go out and we're all going to the store, or we're all going to the amusement park, and this kind of thing. Uh, the question is family fun really more fun than smaller dyads of people, parent, child, or whatever? One of the things, in addition to sibling rivalry, that makes things very difficult is multiple agendas are harder to manage. So I have this family of four here, and they're on vacation. They wake up in the morning at the motel. Dad wants to jog. Mom wants to go to the pool. Sister wants to get donuts, and other sister wants to just sleep. So you have a conflict interest. And the more people, the more conflicts there are. It's just harder to manage those things. How do you manage sibling rivalry? Well, you can look at several things. We'll talk about management. We're going to talk about prevention some too. One is to stay out of it if possible, unless safety is a concern, the kids are fighting, unless you can't stand it, it's legitimate. I couldn't stand sibling rivalry some of the time. It was the biggest problem we had with our kids, unless it's abusive emotionally or physically. And sometimes you need to intervene if the noise is getting to be too much for you. So stay out of it if possible, but you can't always do that. If you use counting for sibling rivalry for 1, 2, 3 magic, at 3, you can do a rest period for both. How long do you do the timeout? My daughter used to do 1, 2, 3 separate with her kids. And that means when I hit 3, you guys got to separate. You don't necessarily have to go to your own bedroom. You can go somewhere else as long as you're not in the same room. And this is what we consider a break time for everybody. Let's talk about some ways of preventing sibling rivalry. And a lot of these are going to revolve around what I call the divide and conquer routine. So let's look at one version of the divide and conquer routine. And this is seating arrangements. A lot of sibling rivalry can be prevented. We just don't think to do it a lot of times. I don't know if you've ever been to church, but look at some of these seating arrangements. A blue big rectangle here is an adult, and the small green ones are the kids. So look at some of these arrangements. You got the first one in the upper left. You got the 2 adults together and the 2 kids together. Well, what are they going to do? The 2 kids. Look to the right of that. We got the 2 adults in the middle separating the 2 kids. Much better, especially in church or movies, sometimes watching TV or eating out. But you can see some of the different arrangements and some that work better. You got 2 parents and 3 kids. Look at that. You can separate them effectively in church or some other place at the movie theater. And the lower right is actually a suicidal arrangement where you have 3 kids and you put them all together at the table or whatever. That's what you don't want to do. So let's look at car seating arrangements. You're going off on a vacation, pay some attention to how people sit. The default is AACC, the 2 adults in the front and the 2 kids in the back. Now this is sometimes a default by legal necessity because the kids aren't old enough to sit in the front. If the kids are old enough to sit in the front, one option is an adult driver and a kid in the, what we call the shotgun, the passenger seat, and then a kid and an adult in the back. If you have an SUV that has 3 levels and a seat in the back, a lot of kids like to sit in the back. You can have adult in the front and child in each level in the back, or you can have an adult and a child in the way back or whatever. A lot of our kids like sitting in the way back. You can see this will minimize sibling rivalry. Oh, you want to go to Disney World? I'm not sure that's a good idea, but if you decide in a moment of perversity that that's the thing that you want to do, here's the plane. Now, you're all sitting in row 14. Is that the whole family default again? It is and it isn't. If this was a 2 and 2 plane, you can see the kids are separated by an aisle and by 2 adults. So that's not so bad. An even better version of this, though, is to have 1 adult and 1 kid in row 14 and 1 adult and 1 kid in row 27, and you switch halfway through. Just think about it. It might be a more enjoyable trip. This is what I've often asked a lot of families to do, is take the McDonald's challenge. Instead of doing the default and going to McDonald's and eating in, if you're going to do that all at the same table, you split it up. You have 1 adult and 1 child at one table, and way across the restaurant, maybe you can't even see them, you have the other adult and the other child. And I have parents come back to me and they say, now you tell me which event you enjoyed more, everybody at the same table or split. A lot of parents sheepishly will say, we enjoyed the split version or the divide and conquer version more than the other. So with the divide and conquer routine, we're capitalizing on a couple of things. We're capitalizing on the fact that sibling rivalry can't occur, which is very nice, but also the fact that kids cherish alone time with a parent, and the combination is very effective. Another version of divide and conquer is, say, dad and child or mom and daughter go out to eat, and another parent stays home with the other child, and you can switch it around, or everybody goes out, but they go to different places. So consider making the divide and conquer, instead of the whole family routine being the default all the time, consider making the divide and conquer the default arrangement 50% of the time. That's my suggestion anyway. Another idea that a lot of families have used is have a alone or quiet time. Everybody's at home, in the house or wherever, and each day there's 1 hour, sometimes before dinner, where everybody's doing their own thing. Some people make it a non-screen and possible nap time, but it's also a peaceful time for mom and dad. And finally, a lot of parents have asked me over the years, well, when are my kids going to get together and get along and so on? My answer is when they're out of the house. Your kids will get along best when they're out of the house, not competing for the same resources, which is you, and so on. And when will this happen? Happens when they all leave home. And interestingly enough, and this is reassuring to a lot of parents, you'll find that some siblings will become the best and most loyal friends in the world to each other once they leave home. So that's something you can look forward to. Okay, that's the book. And there's a chapter that deals with sibling rivalry there. Okay, best of luck to you.